Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Don, and I was doing Vlogtober, but then I decided that I'm just going to be doing uh, regular, I don't know, pretty much anything that suits my fancy for the month. Um, and I watch movies like everybody else, or like most people, and anybody who watches a movie has an opinion about a movie. So I watched a movie over the yesterday, and I have some issues or some questions about it. And it is called The Substance, starring Demi Moore and somebody else. And, well, I need to stop saying but and I did not like it. And it wasn't because of the horror, but at the same time, it was because of the horror. So let me bring up so we can play side by side this thing along with and I could talk about it, and this will help me to refresh my memory on exactly what I was seeing. So, the movie is about a actress who has become older and she's not happy with getting older. She's alone. I guess you could say she's a cat lady. She's alone. She is about ready to lose her job, or she is in the process of losing her job. Although there's no real indication of why or what's happening other than that they're replacing her because she's too old and they want somebody younger. So she gets into a car accident at some point, goes to the hospital, meets a very beautiful young man who gives her a phone number to call, and she calls it and picks up what's called the substance. It is it splits her body into two, a younger version and herself. And it's not even a younger version, it's a completely different person, but they're still connected to the one main body, which is Demi Moore. And I did like the transformation coming out of the body, two separate, and the rules. There was rules that had to be strictly adhered to, or things would go wrong. Of course, that's the idea that things would go wrong. Eventually, the younger self started stealing time from the older self, and the older one became jealous and upset. And so she goes to terminate the deal, but then can't do it because of her vanity. And she can't do it because of her vanity, but she revives her younger self somehow, magic. I'm gonna assume by having a blood transfusion to the heart for 2 seconds. The other one gets up, sees that she was going to be terminated, wants to live, then goes about killing Demi Moore quite brutally. And yeah, oh, my other thing just stopped. Killing Demi Moore very brutally. Then she realizes that she made a mistake because she needs her other body, because as we're told throughout the show that they are one, even though I don't know how that works. It finally comes to a big conclusion at the end. As a matter of fact, if we watch the black and white that I made, that's her getting the substance, putting it in, her body splitting open, and the other one coming out. The other one is young and beautiful. She becomes a star doing the same crappy fitness channel thing. Demi Moore becomes more unhinged as things goes along. The time takes a toll on her body when the younger one steals the time, and that's why Demi Moore ends up hating her. Um, becomes jealous. Now she's out for revenge. It was really quite stupid. Um, Yeah, this is where she was going to kill her, terminate, couldn't do it. Now, because she couldn't do it, or because the younger one ends up killing her, she needed Demi Moore to stay alive, so she tries to start the process all over again using the substance on herself, which eventually creates a as when she's in front of it's like the New Year's celebration, and there's a whole audience, and she turns into a monster and goes out on the stage in her monster dress. It was the stupidest fucking thing. Oh my god, it just went on and on. At one point, a thing opened up on her, and I'm gonna say a boobie came out for no reason. It just did. Body horror. That's what they're going with. I should stay in the shot. Then a limb falls off or something. I can't remember what happened, but blood started spraying on every single person in there, and it was just so stupid. And then there's people when it first happens, people get up from the from the audience and start screaming, "Monster, monster!" It was just dumb, and the blood went on forever, no particular reason at all. And this newly formed creature has Demi Moore's face on the back, and it's almost it went into serious parody at that point. Because and I grew up on horror. I grew up in the 80s, so the Evil Dead and stuff like that. And sure, body horror's been around for a long time with Cronenberg, but this was just so freaking stupid. I, it, uh, I know, and I'll address the themes coming up on this, but uh, it just it, this was written like I'm gonna say it, like maybe the way a 13-year-old would understand body horror movies or horror movies in general, because it wasn't very smart. It was very dull. The first half of it, they say Demi Moore did a great, her acting was amazing, but for the first half of it, over half of it, there was Demi Moore didn't say more than like 3 or 4 words. I mean, there was almost nothing there. And sure, that's a typical that's a trope that's used, to whether it works or not. Um, in this case, it did not work. It was just dull. Demi Moore was a dull character. She was a older woman that was clearly vain, vapid, and I think one of the things that I heard from an interview I was watching was it was talking about misogyny and the beauty standards of Hollywood, unrealistic beauty standards of Hollywood. Well, that happens, but the person, Demi Moore's character, is still an adult. She doesn't have to her brain doesn't have to be warped by that. She can make her own choices. So she went in fully knowing, you go in knowing what you're going to get. If you don't put any effort in any things, of course you're going to end up as an empty vessel, like what Demi Moore was portrayed in this, because really she had no personality. Her apartment uh, had no personality whatsoever. She on one wall, which was to show how vain she was, very simplistic way of showing vanity, was she had a giant picture of herself. Not even herself for the movies, because supposedly she was a movie star and won an Academy Award, but we never saw that. They didn't bother. They told Dennis Quaid's in it, and he's a slimy, money making guy. And the editing they used was, particularly it was grotesque, and they would show, and they were out to dinner, and he's eating prong, um, shrimp, and they're showing the lip smacking and the grease, and it's gross. But they kept doing that over and over through the movie, until it became so commonplace. You're like, oh God, I get it. Go ahead, move on. Just tell your story. And it would literally, the first one or two times was okay, but it just would never end. And again, that goes along with someone who doesn't really understand what makes a good horror movie. They it's like they've only ever seen a horror movie by watching it over someone's shoulder or being told about what a horror movie is, because this was nothing. Um, I didn't really understand the premise or the purpose of the substance, because so the substance was supposed to make a younger you. So you're now split into two people. However, we find out later on that neither one have memories of what the other one does when, because they have a week that they can go and party or do themselves, 1 week being young, 1 week being old, but there's no mixing of the two. So what will be the purpose of the substance if you want to be younger but you never remember it? Why would you want to do it? It doesn't make any sense, because where's the benefit? The only benefit that you're getting is a giant scar on your back. If you're the older person, you get a giant scar on your back. You get stuck in a closet naked for a week, and then you wake up and you're still this yourself. You see your younger self next to you, but there's no connection to the two. But wouldn't that be the point of being younger? Because you want to be younger, not have someone else be younger? I didn't get it. Why would that didn't make any sense? That's not the way it works. And I mean, I've got no reason. I can't come up with a logical reason why they would have done that, other than to create the conflict, which led to her becoming the monster. Her beauty standards and her vanity changing her into this. Because if they had shared memories, there wouldn't have been much of a problem. I mean, if they had shared memories, the way this would have gone, and which would have been logical, is the younger self would have started despising the older self, because the older self would have been stealing time from her, that week that she has to be in a closet naked or whatever. So she would become resentful of moving into that. The younger one would be, the older one, Demi Moore in this case, would be the happy one, because she would be young every other week for 7 days. So I can understand that. I mean, there's a great play for conflict in that, but instead, these were two separate people. But in the movie, we kept being told over and over. I mean, literally, maybe like 5-6 times that they were one. Both of them were the same. One could not exist without the other. They were one. But they weren't one. They were two separate people. So why would you? What would be in it for Demi Moore if she can't remember when she was young? That doesn't make any sense. And then, of course, Demi Moore created an eating habit for a short period of time. She became a French cook or something like that. She got a cookbook and decided to cook and eat her way through life. It made no sense. So, my recommendation would definitely be skip it. I did find the ending to be quite funny. Let's see. Do we have the ending here? Yeah. The ending is just absolutely stupid. Her younger self gets a gig for New Year's Eve, and because she's going to be a star, or she is a star, and so they dress her up in it looks like a prom dress. I said palm dress. Prom dress. I mean, it's big, it's gaudy, it's quite stupid, and that's when she ends up starting to die, because her other self is dead. So when she goes back to her apartment, tries to start the substance over on herself and gets turned into this conglomeration, arm on the back, hideous monster. That thing. No, that's Demi Moore getting older right there. And Demi Moore, so she becomes a mix of the two in the most grotesque way, comical way, I mean, because it was just funny looking. Um, I did appreciate the practical effects, except the blood was stupid beyond belief. I mean, she shot blood. She didn't just bleed. She shot blood to the back of the theater, and people are screaming. It reminded me of the scene in Carrie when the students were trying to escape the the gymnasium, and they're screaming and they're running, and these people are all covered in blood, and it just went on and on and on, and uh, yeah, I probably laughed the entire time, and then at the end, remember at the beginning of the movie we were told that she was a star, and we saw them making putting down her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, which deteriorated over time, and that I think she had won an Academy Award. I'm not sure; it was very vague. We knew that she was an actress at some point, and so the movie starts out with the Hollywood Walk of Fame star, and then it ends with it. Now, there's no connection in between this entire time. There's no indication that where she's spitting up blood or spewing blood all over audience is even close to the star. She's just walking down the street, and eventually she comes upon, her body falls apart and starts turning into mush, and it, except for Demi Moore's head, I think it was Demi Moore's head because it's all covered in blood. So it like the blob, it slowly rolls itself over to the Hollywood Walk of Fame star of herself, which is Elizabeth Sparkle or something like that, and then turns into a bloody mush, which gets swept up by the sweeper the next day. That's it. Kind of that's just, yeah, no. Let me get out of that for a second. So, as you could probably tell, I wasn't a big fan of this movie at all because it was quite dumb. It was empty, vapid, um, unlikable characters. Things just happen. It was, and I've watched several reviews on it because I never even heard of it before I went to see it. I just decided, oh, Demi Moore's in a movie, and I do have to say, I will not call this movie The Substance. I will call it The Humiliation of Demi Moore, because they set out to humiliate, degrade, and make Demi Moore as ugly as they possibly can. And it's sad. And it's definitely, there was no respect there at all to Demi Moore. And it's not that Demi Moore was ever really a great actress. She was just an actress um, who had a little bit of extra character in her appearance for the most part. So yeah, this movie should be called The Humiliation of Demi Moore, because that's all it is. It's a way to torture her and torture her all the way through. Um, I can't imagine. I mean, maybe Demi Moore was just happy to be working. Somebody wanted her in a movie. I can't see how if she would have read it, I don't know. I mean, maybe Demi Moore is as empty as Elizabeth Sparkle in the movie. Um, I would think so, because why would you do this? Why? What would be the purpose of being in a movie like this? Even if it was a horror, I've got no problem with being in a horror movie. But this was just to degrade her, to to make her sad and pathetic, and there's no way that you can escape the association with the real Demi Moore, because I won't call Demi Moore Demi Moore's acting, as a lead actress is long decades in the past at this point. Um, so she clearly must identify with the lead character. I would hope that she has a good life. But just can't see why. Why would you do that? So I did bring up a few facts about the movie that I wanted to go over. So I asked Grok because, ask AI to collect your data for you, because it's actually quite nice. So this movie was put out by, is it Coralie? Coralie Fargat. I believe she's French. She wrote, directed, co-edited, and co-produced. Now, to me, that's a problem, because if you have if you're the sole person, just about the sole person that's in charge of every aspect of it, then you don't have anybody to tell you no. You're working in a vacuum, because somebody should have said, particularly at the end when the blood is spraying across the crowd, that it was just a comedy at that point. And I think they even said it was satire, but I don't know how this is satire for anything. So the plot follows a fading celebrity. I'm going to say this is probably Demi Moore's story, I guess. Played by Demi Moore, and uses a black market drug that temporarily creates a younger, better version of herself. See, that doesn't create a younger, better. It creates a completely different identity, because, like I said, they don't share memories. The only thing they're sharing is bodily fluid. So that's misleading, because it doesn't work. The movie doesn't work unless they remember what each one does. Let's see, which is portrayed by Margaret Qualley. Yeah, she was cute. Not a lot there. She didn't do anything. She was pretty. She immediately, for whatever reason, became a superstar overnight. Within a day, she was a superstar, which was unbelievable, because there's plenty of pretty women in Hollywood. Yeah, she really had no character in it. She was just there. She didn't really, there was no dialogue. There was no her talking to someone else. She never talked to Demi Moore, because they were never together until the final scene when she killed Demi Moore. So, I mean, we didn't know the characters, just like I didn't know Demi Moore, other than what I was told, that, they showed that she was upset with getting older and pushed out. And what I always say is, you're an adult. And at some point, you know that you can go do something else. I mean, so I'm not buying the excuse that she's forced by society to do it, which was part of what they said. The substance requires sharing time between the original and new version. Well, completely different person, leading to unexpected and grotesque side effects. Yeah, okay. Which happened all the way through. I mean, it's a lot of needles, big needles going into bodies. Let's see, themes. The movie delves into themes such as beauty standards, the aging process, and the length to which individuals might go to maintain or recapture youth and relevance in the entertainment industry. It's been described as a critique of how society and the entertainment business treat women, particularly regarding age and beauty. Well, that's great. And yes, there's that. But they're still responsible for themselves. She's still responsible for the person she becomes. So just because society and entertainment labels you as something, you're an adult. You don't have to adhere to that label. Unless, of course, you're an empty, vapid person that only wants to stay relevant and with fame and with beauty. And that's not realistic. cast. We've been over the cast. Basically, Demi Moore, Margaret Qualley, Dennis Quaid. They're really just about the only people in there. I don't know who this Edward Hamilton Clark was. Was he the neighbor? Because there wasn't any other characters. Really, there was only the Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley, and everybody else was just peripheral. So Moore's performance has been particularly noted, with some reviews calling it one of her career's best. No, it was not. It was not a career best. She moped around the entire freaking time. She got jealous to, well, I mean, she did have to stop it, but she couldn't stop it. But then why would the substance, if it was creating a second you, why is that second you a completely different entity with its own memories? Why wouldn't they come together? I mean, okay. What would be the motivation of taking it if you can't remember your younger self? So, let's see. Let's move this camera out a little bit. Trying to move the camera out. Okay, come on. And then let me put it like this. See, the problem with this camera is sometimes I get out of frame like I am right now, and it's the OBS bot. And I know I should take gesture off. I mean, but I kind of like it because if I don't have this on, then I have to do everything on a separate tablet. So that's just me. Anyway, back to the show. I want to edit this out because all this is just for me to practice, and I want to zoom out so I can talk with my hands. So, style and influences. Oh, let me get the right mouse. The substance incorporates elements of body horror with influences from directors like David Cronenberg, Brian De Palma. Brian De Palma? I'm trying to think of how this would even come close to being related to Brian De Palma. I mean, Blowout, and what was the last good Brian De Palma movie? It's been a long time. I might have to go back and revisit some of those movies. Body Double. I see no connection to Brian De Palma, though. Let's see. And Stanley Kubrick. What? What? Stanley Kubrick. So somebody said that this incorporates element with the influences from Stanley Kubrick. No, it does not. Seen through the use of bold colors. No, not bold colors. That was another thing I was a little confused by because it had a very 80s look to it, like an 80s style dress, bright red, and then jazzercise type clothing for the when they were doing the fitness videos, and the prom dress. But all of it was bland. And then the red blood splattering, it didn't stand out. So I don't know what they're talking about with that. Surreal settings, it was mostly her apartment, not very surreal. And somehow the younger self knew how to build her own hidden closet. I mean, perfect within a couple of minutes. It was actually quite amazing. I don't know why, if you were connected to your older self or you're connected to your younger self and you're switching bodies and one body is active and the other one is comatose for a week, why weren't you sticking the other one in a bed? Maybe with some blankets? No, leaving them all week long on the floor, naked, exposed, with not even a pillow. Why would you do that? That didn't make any sense. And later on, you see that they could clearly move the body because they're pulling each other's bodies around the house, around the apartment for a little bit. It was so stupid. And explorations of transformation and identity. Yeah, the themes of transformation and identity were very juvenile. Sorry, but they were simplistic to the point of being, um, a smack in the face. Reception. The film has received positive reviews for its bold direction, its commentary on societal issues. I'm using my sarcastic voice, and its visceral approach to storytelling. There was no visceral. It was just bland until something happened. It premiered at the 2024 Cannes Festival. She won Best Screenplay Award, indicating critical acclaim for its script. How? How? I mean, oh, wow. Um, I think after this, I mean, I know the Cannes Film Festival in the past has had a lot of they've awarded a lot of bad movies because maybe they were paid for giving out awards. Might be a little corrupt. I don't know, but it's just the idea because there's no reason why this should have won any kind of award. Matter of fact, people should have laughed at it. Um, I guess a lot of people in Hollywood can relate to this, so maybe this is only made for them. Very low standard movie, if you ask me. Production details: it's international co-production. Let's see, the film particularly has been heightened in distribution. Don't care. Public reaction based on the post on X, because I'm asking Grok. The substance has been described as both shocking and brilliant, with particular focus on the extreme and satirical take on beauty standards and its memorable, if not disturbing, climax. Laughable climax. Satirical? No, not at all. Um, what a joke. Oh, man. Oh, I like this. In summary, The Substance is noted for its audacious approach to horror and satire, offering a grim look at the consequences of vanity and the pressures of ageism in Hollywood, all while showcasing strong performances, especially from Demi Moore. No, nope, nope, nope. Let's see. What does it have to say? I prepared a couple of questions just because I'm curious what if they were trying to make statements and if I agree with them or not. The substance delves into several profound themes and messages, primarily focusing on now profound. I like that they think that they're being profound, but yeah, no. Let's see. Critique of Hollywood's beauty standards. The film satirizes the entertainment industry's obsession with youth and beauty, particularly the pressure on women to remain young and attractive to stay relevant. It highlights how these standards can lead to extreme measures symbolized by the black market drug that allows one to become younger, more marketable version of themselves. Okay, I can see that. Again, there is a bit of self-responsibility that should go into this. So, if you get sucked up into it, then that's, you've let yourself do that. You believe everything that, well, I don't know what I'm trying to say there, but let's just continue then. Self-hatred and body dysmorphia. Now, this one's true. There's an exploration of how societal societal this, societal that. This is still her. Societal beauty ideas can foster self-hatred and body dysmorphia. The dual existence of Elizabeth and Sue illustrates the internal conflict and self-destructive behavior that can result from an inability to accept one's aging process or natural appearance. I think that's just natural. People don't want to get older. It doesn't. You don't need society to tell you that. If anything, because Demi Moore's an older, lonely character, if she had in her youth had not been so vain, so selfish, she wouldn't have ended up alone. And obviously the being alone is what really led to her, internalizing everything. It wasn't society. It was her choices that she made in order to become a star. And then she lost herself along the way. That's not societal. That's her. She made that decision. And then Not only did she make that decision, but she ended up changing for that, by doing the substance, and then getting. She didn't want to end it, even though it was harming her body. So society didn't do that to her. She did that to herself. Let's see. Next one, Consequences of Vanity and Self-Objection. The film uses grotesque body horror, comedic horror, to depict the physical and psychological toll of trying to live up to unrealistic ideas. The character transforms into the monstro Elise. They just yell out monster. It's so stupid when you see it. Serves as a metaphor for the monstrous outcomes of vanity taken to its extreme. Yes, we've seen that a lot with plastic surgery and things like that. I don't have much problem with that. Feminist themes. Now, okay. It critiques how women are often their own hardest critics, influenced by a culture that devalues them as they age. Well, in that little niche, the rest of the world's not like that. The narrative explores the lengths to which women might go to fit into societal. Okay, if you have to use societal every single time, then you didn't actually make a good movie. So I'm sorry. Societal expectations, questioning the autonomy and self-worth of women in the entertainment industry. Okay, there were no feminist themes here. There was no societal expectations here. This was a lonely, vain, rich woman, and that's another thing. So they're giving out the substance for free. They didn't elaborate on where the substance was coming from or why it was coming from. It was just there, and that's fine. You can definitely do that, but going back to the feminist themes. No. By that time, her ego was so massive that she did this on her own. Society did not pressure her into this. And maybe this is a good movie to say, don't be alone. Don't, loneliness leads to, what is that? When you're lonely, I guess you're susceptible to depressions, self-harm, as Demi Moore was. And maybe that's what this whole thing was. She was lonely, and this was her only way that she knew how to connect, because this was the way she connected in the past. So that makes a little bit more sense. The societal stuff, whatever. Let's see. Drug addiction as a metaphor. I did kind of like this. Some interpretations suggest that the use of the substance mirrors drug addiction, where the initial high, youth, beauty, leads to a cycle of dependency, withdrawal, and ultimately self-destruction. Got no problem with that. Excuse me. No problem with that at all. I think that is a very astute observation on her addiction to the substance and drugs, because it could have been fentanyl or meth. Yeah, no, I like that one. Identity and transformation. The movie touches on themes of identity, questioning what happens when one's identity is tied to their physical appearance. It asks whether personal value is inherent or if it's bestowed by external perceptions, particularly in an industry like Hollywood. Well, it's probably both. I mean, you're an adult. You have the ability for both. The illusion of perfection. By showcasing the extreme lengths of perfection, the substance might also comment on the illusionary. Why am I having the illusion? Let's see. The illusion of perfection in public or personal life, suggesting that the pursuit of an idolized self can lead to one's downfall. And that's a bit of a stretch right there. Acceptance of aging. There's an underlying message about the acceptance of the aging process, naturally suggesting that true self-acceptance and freedom come from transcending the superficial standards imposed by society. Okay, there's no indication in the movie of that. There's no remorse for anything. There's nothing to even show that there is a another side to the aging process. We're just presented with this one very linear story. And like I said, I don't even call it a story. You know, a woman gets substance, injects herself, basically kills herself at the end. That's it. So we don't have anything to contrast that with. You know, she doesn't have a sister who's aging gracefully. She doesn't have a friend who has a family. We're just stuck in this little bubble. So I don't believe that there's any message at all in here about that. In summary, the substance uses this narrative to critique the entertainment industry standards, explore themes of self-worth, identity, and the destructive pursuit of idolized self, all while making a commentary on how these pressures affect individuals, particularly women, in their personal and professional lives. Men too. I mean, you got to. I mean, that's to not include men, because both men and women do that is kind of ridiculous. Only a few men get to older age in Hollywood. The majority of them, just like women, get cast aside once they get too old. So, yeah, no, I'm not buying it. Let's see. Tell me about Carolee. Is it Carolee? I'm pretty sure it's Carolee. Forgot. I know it's French, and I took French in high school, but I don't remember the vowels very well. She's a French filmmaker known for a bold, visually striking style. Can see with a deep interest in exploring themes of identity. Background and inspiration has always been drawn to genres like horror and science fiction. Her debate, so she hasn't even been doing it. That her debate feature was in 2017. So was that 7 years ago? So not that long ago. Already showcased an interest. Never heard of it. I might look it up just so I don't want to pass judgment and say that it's probably not good, but it's probably not good. So I'll look it up. Conception of the substance. The film serves as a critique of Hollywood's beauty standards. We already went through that. Not really. If anything, it serves as a critique of vain, privileged women, because that's really what it is. Narrative structure. The substance uses concepts of a drug that splits a person into two versions of themselves to explore these themes. Not really. No, it did not. We didn't see the other one do anything other than work out, get laid, get famous. And then, of course, she started stealing time, but that was the majority of what it was about. Okay. The idea allows her to delve into the dualities of self-perception versus societal perception, and the internal conflict of self-worth versus public image. Oh, God. If you were in high school, that's what it would be. Symbolism and imagery. She employs body horror to symbolize the grotesque nature of societal pressures. The transformation into the monster at the climax is not just physical change, but a metaphor for how toxic beauty standards can distort one's identity to an extreme. Yeah. Visual and stylistic choices. Her filmmaking style reflects influences from various genres. Not really. She described as having the flair of a grindhouse Kubrick. No. She's described as having no. Combining psychological depth. No, there was no psychological depth there. With visceral horror, the use of color, especially pink for Sue, symbolizes over-the-top femininity. Well, they had already established that this was the 80s. And yes, Elizabeth, the older self, Demi Moore, wore more drab blue color. And then the other one was very popish 80s, reflective pink. Yeah. Are meant to shock. Okay, pick over the top of me. While the surreal and grotesque body transformations are meant to shock and provoke thought. No, it made me laugh. I'll give you that. I don't care about the development process. Let's see. The substance has been lauded for its bold approach. She won Best Screenplay at Cannes. Laugh, 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 laugh. Critiques and audience have noted its resonance with contemporary issues regarding beauty, aging, and self-perception in the entertainment industry. Okay, whatever. Um, okay, so then I thought I've seen so much praise. I watched several of the usual YouTubers that review movies, and for whatever reason they praised this, and I was surprised. Um, so I wanted to know if anyone else feels, like this movie was a joke. And let's see. So I asked Grok, what are the criticisms? So lack of depth or substance. I completely agree with that because there was no depth and substance here. I would say there was a high school level of depth, which means that, you know, it's about as deep as what you get for if you were in 10th grade or high school. I mean, it's nothing. Some critics argue that despite its title, the substance may not delve deeply enough into its themes, actually at all. Suggests it's more style or substance. The film has been described as potentially shallow in its exploration of beauty standards and aging identity. And I completely agree with that. I thought the whole movie was shallow. Over the top execution, while the film's audacity is often praised, some feel that its execution can be repetitive. Yeah, no, it repeated the same scene, particularly with the editing and the lip smacking over and over. And I'm like, kid, over it. I mean, I understand what you're doing, but I don't have to keep beating me on the head with that. With the narrative becoming predictably grotesque without adding new layers to the discussion, well, there wasn't a discussion. So, believe it or not, you can create just a good horror movie. You don't need to have a discussion. It doesn't need to be deep. I mean, Evil Dead's not deep, but it's just a good, solid horror movie. Um, I guess it would explore elements of Evil Dead. What kind of elements would it explore? You can't go off of the movie, the Evil Dead 2, because Ash was not a weak character. They made him kind of bumbling in the TV series. So I was going to say he had the evolution of being. Yeah, no, I mean Ash in the Evil Dead had the evolution of being a ordinary man thrust into a situation that he couldn't control, and he had to stand up for himself, and he had to fight. Now the TV show muddied that a bit, although the TV show is really good. I would recommend watching it. Definitely better than this. And it has some good horror in it. Let's see. Accusations of exploitation. There's debate around whether the substance inadvertently glorifies or exploits the very standards it critiques. Critics have pointed out that the camera work, especially in scenes involving Margaret Qualley's character, might pander to the male gaze and contradicting the film's film. That's stupid. I mean, the way that she was filming is like, I don't know if anybody remembers. I'm sure they do. Solid Gold from the '80s. That's what it was like. That's what was trying to be portrayed, and that's fine. And she did, because she was a younger self. She was a very sexual being. So that's not a critique. That's actually one of the good elements about that, about the whole movie. And I'm gay, so I didn't give a shit that she was bending over and showing her ass multiple times. It was all part of her emptiness as a person. So that was good. I didn't have any problem with that whatsoever. And then for people saying that it glorified, get real. Length and pacing. Yes, it was too long, way too long. Some viewers and critics have noted that the movie might feel too long, or that its pacing could have been better, leading to moments where the film feels tedious. Yeah, I would say the first half of it. And then when we get to Sue's character, she doesn't do anything. I mean, you're just kind of along for the ride until she actually gets engaged. And when she does, it's great. When she's stealing time, which means she has to take bodily fluid from Demi Moore's character, that's actually a great part. And she keeps stealing more and more time because she's having fun. But just for having fun, I mean, nothing happens. She goes, works out. She goes on a date. She gets laid. I mean, that's about it. There's nothing there. Okay. Oh, and the blood splattering scene at the end, over the top stupid. Over the top, went on way too long, and you're like, when is this going to end? I mean, it doesn't end. It was stupid. And there's a scene, many scenes like that in Evil Dead, and I think that's a good comparison between Evil Dead, because Evil Dead loves splattering, spraying blood all over the place. But that was great. That was always fun. That was part of it. This was just tedious. Exactly what they said here. Like this misogynistic elements, despite its aim toward feminist commentary. No. There's criticism that the film might not fully escape traditional horror tropes that objectify or demonize women, particularly older women, who could be seen as which could be seen as reinforcing negative stereotypes. Only a moron would say something like that. I mean, there's nothing. The movie's not that deep. And like I said, the only real two characters on here are Elizabeth and Sue. And then I think you can add up all of Dennis Quaid's scenes, gross scenes, because they made sure that he was gross every time that he was on there. So, no, they made sure that the old men or the men were gross in it. So that statement right there, misogynistic elements, is total bullshit. Yeah, Dennis Quaid's scenes probably combined only last a couple of minutes. So the other 2 hours and something of this train wreck of a movie was just, I don't know, people partying or people eating. It's just stupid. Over marketing, there's sentiment that the film's marketing. Okay, I don't care. Might have revealed too much. Revealed what? Okay. Superficial satire. Okay, there's satire. Why do they say that? Let's see. Hold on. I want to get the actual definition. There we go. Satire, artistic form, chiefly in which human or individual vices, follies, abuses, or shortcomings are held up to. Who the heck wrote that? Good Lord. The use of humor, irony, exaggeration, or ridicule to expose and criticize people's stupidity or vices, particularly in the context of contemporary politics or other topical issues. Yeah, satire is giving this show too much credit. It was a I wouldn't even call it a horror movie. I mean, it was, I guess, superficial satire is fine. I mean, I don't, yeah. No. These criticisms highlight the divide in reception, where the film's bold approach, visual style, and thematic intentions are appreciated by some, but found lacking or problematic by others. Well, that's typical movie-going experience. There's nothing unusual. Discussion around the substance underscores the difficulty of critiquing societal norms through the medium of horror without inadvertently reinforcing them. What? Yeah, no. Anyway, so the movie sucked. At least for me, it did. I thought it was a comedy. Well, the first part was just boring, but it was definitely a type of comedy that you would get. And let's go ahead and read. Oh, that was the blood splattering scene, and then see, she's still spraying blood. It was the actually the body horror. Whoever they got to do it, no, I'm not going to look it up because I don't care. Clearly, was inspired by the 1980s. It might be 1980 or 1979 basket case, because it's very similar in its appearance, and that was 4 decades ago. Is it 4 decades ago? Over 4 decades ago. So you would have thought that things would be a bit better. So go back and look up basket case. I like basket case too because it goes over the top with um, with the creature effects. Gosh, this was just so stupid. Um, I'm not sure if there's anything else I want to ask Grok, but what are the this arts scandals? See that. Now, what I'm curious is how this won for best screenplay at the Cannes seems rather ridiculous. So I wonder if there has been some previous scandals where movies won awards for other reasons. His film Melancholia. Melancholia is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Let's see. Lars von Trier incident. Lars von Trier was banned from the festival after making comments about understanding Hitler during a press conference. Yeah, okay, whatever. And I shouldn't have said the Ehler name. Melancholia, which was declared person non grata by the fellow, although the ban was later lifted. That's not really a scan. Netflix ban The Brown Bunny. The Brown Bunny received harsh criticism, became infamous for its explicit content and slow pace. Critics like Roger Ebert famously panned it, leading to a feud between, okay, that doesn't really tell me. Roman Polanski, yeah, okay. Booing an audience reset Cannes as a tradition of audience. So it's not really telling me various political statements or actions by filmmakers during the festival have led to controversies. 1968. Yeah, don't care. So it's not really giving me back anything, but the fact that this was given a best screenplay award at the Cannes leads me to believe that they're not exactly honest, because there was no no. Let's see, worst. All right, what are the worst scandals that have come out of the Cannes Film Festival? Let's see, that one did this exact same thing. Yeah, I would have to go back. Security guard. Recently, there's been incidents involving festival security guards. Ukrainian model, an actress were among those who reported being mishandled. And that doesn't mean anything. Controversial film content. Okay. Yeah, no, that would take some things, because there's no way this should have won any award whatsoever, and the embarrassment of the degrading of Demi Moore as the only award this should have gotten was how it made. I mean, you have to feel sorry. I mean, I feel sorry for her, because if she identifies with this, clearly she's a broken person. To me, she's clearly a broken person, because there's no way anyone normal would have signed on for this. So I guess that's it. This is my 1 hour. I'm actually at 50. How many minutes am I at? I'm at 1 hour exactly. So I hope you enjoyed my first movie breakdown. And I do enjoy this. I like, everybody who watches a movie has an opinion about it. And I'm just one of a sea of people who have my own opinions and ideas on whether or not a movie is good or bad and why it sucks. And just to let you know, I, and I'm sure no one will be here till the end of this, but I'll probably explain it again later at another date. I like movies. However, I have I have more respect for low budget movies than I do big budget movies. And I'll be harsher on big budget movies because big budget movies to me, they're put together by a team of people. So there's no one person. Like this was one person. So in some ways I do respect what this person did, this Caroline or whatever, uh, to be able to one get Demi Moore to star, to be degraded and torn down like this. I do respect that, and I'm not sure what the budget. What was the? I'm curious what the budget was for this because it couldn't have been much. Yeah. So I'll give this. Well, I didn't like the movie at all. It had a budget of 17.5 million, which is pretty low, for today's standards for the most part. So I would hope that it would make its money back, and I think it did. Um, Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure it did. Not a good movie, but for what they did for 17 million, and maybe that's why now that I've looked up the budget, why the ending was very sloppy and grotesque was to cover up their lack of budget. Because really, spraying the audience for several minutes with blood was just. I mean, they were trying to accomplish something to make it bigger than what it was because it wasn't. Um, yeah, no, I have more. So the way I look at it, I have respect for low budget movies like this. Even though I may tear it apart and it's not a good movie, I'll still say it's one of my favorite movies because this movie was bad. This was a bad movie, and I love bad movies. I probably won't ever watch it again, but I do have to respect it for the budget and being able to get it in theater. And obviously, they got it in the theaters because of Demi Moore's name. Um, or else, I mean, there's no way I would have seen it. It should have been straight to Netflix or whatever. But big budget movies, those 100 million, $200 million Marvel movies and other movies like that. I think they're fair game. I mean, they literally use an army of people, from an army of producers, an army of writers, an army of directors, an army of, well, he's not a director, but, you know, um, just so many people are involved in the process, and yet they put out horrible stuff that'll be forgotten to time. And a good one that a good example of this is a movie that I would tear down all day long happily is, let's say, The Marvels with Brie Larson. Um, when you watch it, it's hard to believe that one, they spent 200 to 300 million making this, and it looks like crap. I mean, it really does not look like a good movie. I mean, the costumes are ill fitting, the sets are mostly computer graphics. There's nothing, no standout features in that movie. The writing, team of writers, and this is the best they can come up with. I mean, I would have almost thought that there wasn't a director. There was probably mostly just some notes on a paper, and we're going to film this today, and this today, because there was nothing else there. Um, and then you have in movies like that, you have characters like Samuel L. Jackson, which have been taken down from the high of Nick Fury at the beginning, where he's an authoritative figure and people trust him and he's strong, to this weak character that is not it's not the same person. I mean, it's almost like The Substance, where you know Nick Fury split off into two separate people, and the second one was vapid and weak. So I'll tear down those things all day long with just glee. Um, movies like this, now that I know the budget, I would have to. I won't reconsider. I won't ever label it as a good movie because it's not a good movie. I won't ever say when it shows up on Netflix, watch it because it's not really worth watching. Um, it just makes me sad for Demi Moore. Uh, but I have a tendency to give more leeway to movies like this, the low budget things, because they're done with much less resources, less people, so they have to be efficient in what they do. They have to be spot on. They have to be able to tell stories. There are a lot of bad low budget movies. Don't get me wrong, but I love bad movies. I love bad low budget movies. I miss the during the late '70s into the '80s and early part of the '90s before computer graphics started coming along and totally ruining things and the low budget. Oh, well, that was something that should have fallen. But uh, what was my thought? Anyway, oh yeah. So during that time, there was like, Fred Olen Ray and other just wonderful, humanoids from the deep, um, chud, cannibalistic humanoids, undercity dwellers. Great stuff, absolute great stuff that came out. Evil Dead. We don't have anything like that. We don't really have low budget stuff. We have this, but I think this would have been better as a movie without the body horror and just making it a horror. And, like I said, bringing the two women together, one getting jealous of the younger one getting jealous would make a lot more sense than Demi Moore getting jealous if they remember if they're one person, their minds should have been together, but they treated them as two separate people, and it doesn't make any sense. So, with that being said, I will give another review, and while I'm here, might as well ask one more thing. What was So there was another horrible movie, and I'm pretty sure it's low budget. Oh my God. No, it's not. I will be glad to rip this one apart. This one is one of the most pathetic movies I've seen, and Kate Blanchett's in it. It just, man. It's called Rumors, and I will definitely review it. I might have to go see it again, though, in order to refresh my mind, my memory, or at least watch it online. Rumors is bad, and it had a budget of around $80 million. It looks cheap the entire way through. Everything takes place outside in the forest at night. The only real things around them are they put colored lights, so there's color. How is this? How much? I can't imagine how much did. I mean, the only real big name in it was Kate Blanchett. I'm trying to remember who was in it. Kate Blanchett. Yeah, no, that was it. I mean, this. Huh. I will definitely just learn the budget for this movie was 15 million. It's insane. VFX budget for the movie's rumors report about 80 million. See, I can't see that being 80 million because that doesn't make any sense. So I'm gonna have to look that up because it looked cheap. The movie rumors, it was horrible. Um, worth destroying, tearing apart. Um, I mean, I would say definitely for me, no redeeming value at all. It was, if I would compare it to this movie, I would put them on the same level and never watch them again. So I will definitely think about doing a review for Rumors, but I'll give you a little taste of what that rumor would be. or what that review would be. So this Rumors is so stupid and so pathetic that the very last shot, the very last scene in that movie is of a swamp ghost who's been buried for, I think they said 2,000 years or something like that, jacking off. That's the scene. And it just happens and it goes on forever. And you're going, why is this here? Why am I looking at this? What is happening? Because you have no idea what's happening the entire time. It's the apocalypse. Doesn't say what the apocalypse is. Doesn't even really let you know. I don't want to get too far into it because this is already, now it's over an hour and 10 minutes for this particular live stream. So the substance, no. Bad movie. And I feel sorry. It shouldn't be called The Substance. It should be called The Humiliation of Demi Moore. And I hope you enjoyed this. Again, my name is Don. Like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know if you watch movies. I am looking for someone to play off of. It's not that I consider myself funny in any way, but the interaction with somebody else doing reviews really does, elevate the product. So if anybody wants to co-host, if you're in San Diego, which is where I'm at, then hit me up, through here with a message. Or if you're not, then hit me up and we can figure out. I use something, like OBS, but then we can also do many of the other restreaming services that are out there, which allow us to have guests. So like, comment, subscribe to my channel, stream bigger, and I will see you guys on the next one. And so I did not set up the slate to go out, so I have to actually turn my head and go over here